What is up, everybody? Jarrett from Empire of Assets here. Today we are talking about Blue Ink, probably the least talked about secret rare in Metazoo of all time. I'm going to break down what I think the print run is, some recent sales data, and where I think the future for the card is going. So make sure to stick around to learn everything about the Blue Ink secret rare. So jumping right into it, Blue Ink is basically the second edition Cryptid Nation's version of red ink. If you don't know about red ink, basically in a booster box there is a foil packet on top that contains a single card. So there's 36 normal packs, have 10 cards each, I believe. Then there is one foil pack on top. That is the box topper. It contains a single card. In first edition, these are alternate art versions of Aura. In second edition, they are alternate art versions of Terra. So there's 10 different ones of each of those. And then you do have a very, very, very tiny chance to hit the secret rare in first edition Cryptid Nation. That is the card Red Ink, which is on your screen right now. And then they had to replace this card, but they didn't want to reprint Red Ink for second edition. So instead they made the card Blue Ink, which is what we are talking about today. Red Ink has a print run of between 100 and 108. It's never been 100% confirmed. We originally thought it was 100, but breaking down the math on the number of printed sheets of the cards, there actually seems to be 108. So no one will probably ever be 100% certain, but we have a very, very good idea in a card that is super, super rare. To get a little more context on this, there is 25,000 first edition Cryptid Nation booster boxes, which means your chance of hitting the Red Ink card is about 1 in 250 booster boxes. So obviously very, very, very tiny chance to hit that card. So again, the print run has not been confirmed on Blue Ink, but there's 4 times as much Cryptid Nation second edition as there was first edition, 25,000 booster boxes to 100,000 booster boxes. 62,500 for the United States, and then the rest for international sales, which is great for the strength of the game, selling product overseas. But with 4 times the product, I think personally it's a really safe assumption to assume the number is somewhere between 400 and 432 Blue Inks. It just makes a lot of sense. It doesn't make sense that they would increase the number greatly. If you're thinking about it from just a cost standpoint, if they keep the print sheet the same, all they have to change is the second edition stamp. They can leave everything else the same, change the colors on the Blue Ink, change the name of the card, change a little bit of wording, but leave it right in the Red Ink slot. I think that makes a lot of sense. So I would put this card between a print run of 400 and 432, somewhere in there. And even if it was outside this range, there's for sure probably not more than 1,000 and probably not any less than 200. Now 1,000 is obviously a lot, but I would say this 400 number is a really good general estimate, and it's a very rare card in the grand scheme of things, especially just the fact that we know that there's this many copies. If you look at something like Pokemon, we never really have any sort of idea about the number of cards printed, but if we had to guess, it would be many, many, many more than 100 copies for Red Ink or 400 for Blue Ink. So now that we have a general idea of how many are out there, let's move into some sales data. So I believe only 4 sales of this card have happened on eBay. Obviously, some have probably happened off of eBay. But the 4 that happened on eBay, we'll start from the oldest and work our way down, which coincidentally, the highest price was the first sold, and they have dipped after that pretty heavily, along with kind of the whole market. On January 9th, there was a sale, the first sale on eBay of a Blue Ink card for $7,200.69. Gotta love when they throw the 69 cents in there. But $7,200 on January 9th. Then 2 days later on the 11th, another one sold, this time for only $5,500. So a pretty much $2,000 drop there. Then another one sold 3 days later after that on January 14th for $4,450. So basically a $1,000 drop again. And then the most recent one sold on January 20th for a best offer of $2,000 that was accepted. However, it is super important to note that this one In the description, the buyer did note that the card had some print line errors. There was some something wrong with the holo. I don't know if there's a little print ding or a manufacturing error, but he did make reference of some errors on the card. I would guess that card with the print lines probably is not going to grade higher than a PSA 6 or 7, so that is why it's going to be half the price of the most recent sale after that. And these cards they're really finicky with printing, just like a lot of the Nightfall cards. Definitely some errors and quality control stuff in these cards. So a super gem, perfect condition card is going to go for a lot more than one that has some very noticeable flaws like print lines or something like that. But as you can see, pretty strong sales prices. I know when Red Ink first came out, they were doing about $10,000. I think they're probably still around there, maybe have dipped a little bit, maybe down more towards that 7,000 range. So for Blue Ink to be doing about half those numbers is really strong, considering there's 4 times the demand. But definitely interesting. Another thing I wanted to talk about is just how the second edition market is doing. The second edition market has been really pretty weak. I think you can get a box for less than $100, which retail on these is $140. So they're way under retail, which is, I don't know, it's probably really good for players, probably getting a lot of people into the game. It's supposed to be coming out to Walmart. I don't think booster boxes are, but other second edition product, which is really good. I think it's great for the game economy as a whole, just getting more people interested in the game. I think at this point, it's not about having super valuable product, which they do have a lot of. First edition boxes doing $700-800, Kickstarter boxes doing $7,000 to $8,000. But it's good to have a easily accessible price point for new collectors, people that just want to try out ripping a box, kids. It's good for all those different people. So I think it's good to have low values there. But it is interesting that you can pull a $5,000 card out of one of these boxes. So it will be interesting to see if a lot of these boxes get ripped or if they stayed sealed. First edition is getting expensive enough where there's not going to be a lot of people ripping it unless it is for a break or something like that. So I think less and less red inks are going to keep popping up. Whereas with blue inks at only $70 a box, I think you could see a lot of these ripped just for players looking for cards. I know the Mothman is going for between $50 and $70, which for a box that only costs $70 to $100, call it maybe $80-90, you hit one card and you get the majority of your value back. That's really strong. You also just had the reserve list announcement with a lot of these Cryptid Nation cards being put on the reserve list. So I do think that could help box prices as well. If you didn't know about the reserve list, make sure to check out my latest video where I break down the cards that are on the reserve list and kind of how I think it's going to impact market prices, at least at this stage in the game. I don't think it's going to have a super big effect. Spoiler alert there. But that is kind of all I had for you guys today. I haven't seen a lot of chatter about Blue Ink. There's a lot more people excited about the upcoming Wilderness set coming into Walmart, the big market dip recently. Crypto, a lot of people just don't seem to be focused on Blue Ink, so I thought it was a good time to put out maybe a sneaky little video on this probably a little bit underrated card, although at $5,000, it's clearly not too underrated by the market. That's all I have for you guys today. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. It would help me out a lot. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Otherwise, guys, thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next video.